birthday.
Well, Miss Lucas, it wouldn't be a Preakness without you in attendance.
Well, I think they'll run it without me, but I'm glad to be here.
Wouldn't be as fun. So, super glad to have you here. Of course, very special filly that you've brought over, Secret Oath, Victors of the Kentucky Oaks. Of course, first obvious question, how did she pull up from that race and how did she travel over here?
Well, what we do after a race like the Oaks, we have this, we consider the Preakness, and we considered the Black-Eyed Susan and a couple other options actually. But what we do is we look at her for 4 or 5 days, see how she bounces back, see what we got in front of us, and she'll tell us if we should be in the Preakness or not. She did have a great week after the Oaks. The Oaks seemed to be a good, solid race, but not a gut-stretching, hard race on her. So we right away said, let's try the Preakness. The purse money, the distance, the smaller field, a lot of pluses. And we've had good success here, not necessarily with a filly in here, but maybe that's what we should do. We got the other ones won, and so now we'll try it with the filly.
Of course, you're no stranger to success with ladies taking on the boys. You've had some illustrious fillies in your care. How does she stack up in comparison?
Well, I've been asked that all week, how does she stack up with the good ones? She's on target to be as good as any of them we ever had. Again, she has to move forward, has to do a little more than the Oaks was a great step forward. But if she were to do well here in the Preakness and then the races we've got earmarked down the line, she's going to be right up there with the best ever. So she's got that ability, I think, to do that. If she just moves forward and we have no trouble, she could stack up with the good ones.
Well, talking about trouble or a possible trip, she's drawn sort of in the middle of the field, gate 4. Are we content with that?
Oh, yeah. Starting where they start here, where the gate sets here at the Preakness and that run to the first turn, it's no, I don't think I think all of us as trainers are probably pretty happy with our post position. It's a piece of conversation for you all, but you really are more concerned on who's on each side of you. I'm more concerned of who's riding the one next to us in the 3 and who's riding one in the 5, because assuming that they can break straight and not run over anybody, the post position is not a big deal.
Well, you mentioned the influence of the riders. Of course, jockey change was made for her going into the Kentucky Oaks. Louis Sayers came aboard. You mentioned already, of course, you've had success with him before. How well does he suit this filly?
Well, he really fits her, but he fits them all. He's just a really solid guy, and we've used him before on a lot of top horses. I've been instrumental a little bit in his early career, and it was an obvious choice for me to go that in with the magnitude of the Oaks and there's a lot of excitement and pressure on a horse when you get that big of a race.
You know what it's like to win a Preakness. You've been here before, danced the dance. What will you be doing with her in the week leading up to get her to peak on the day here at Baltimore?
We don't have to do a lot. She'll go to the track every day, right up to the race, and maybe I'll do a little something even on race day to keep her, focused. But the work's been done. As far as her work and tightening her down and doing something serious, the Oaks did that for us. When you turn around in 2 weeks and have a 12-hour van ride in there and between it, we don't need to do anything but keep her happy.
And a lot of people have been discussing, of course, the length of the Triple Crown, that 2-week turnaround into the Preakness Stakes. You've been around for a very, very long time, a time that perhaps trainers were turning horses around quicker, like a week's rest, another race. How do you look at that 2-week turnaround? Do you think, obviously, clearly you think it's doable, or do you think it's hard on horses?
I think ideally, as trainers, ideally we would probably all vote for a Memorial Day race maybe or something like that, which would be 4 weeks. But tradition is so strong, you're not going to change the Kentucky Derby. They're locked in. So you could maybe move this one. I don't know how feasible that is, but move it to Memorial Day and then maybe run the Belmont on the 4th of July. It would be ideal from a trainer standpoint. And I would vote for that. I think you'd have bigger fields, maybe more competitive fields if we had the space. The spacing eliminates a lot of the horses here. When they come out of the Derby, if they've had a hard race, boom, they they don't want to come back in 2 weeks. And the younger generation, especially the old timers, my colleagues, don't worry so much about that turnaround as the younger guys. The younger guys do not want to do that in 2 weeks. They're very careful about that. So there's a lot of things that would go into it.
Yeah. Well, wonderful to have your insight on it as well, having been around for as long as you have. Final question, you mentioned to me that you started to notice that she's developed quite a bit of a fan base, a bit of a following. Of course, she's the story here in the field. What does that mean to you, and then how have you noticed?
Well, it's refreshing. I think racing needed a feel-good story. I think the fans out there wanted to get a hold of something positive to put their hat on, and she has been that. She's surprised me how big her fan base is. Now, I get a reaction from everywhere on her, especially after the Oaks. Something like 297 texts or something hit my phone. So that is refreshing. Racing has had a rough go of it here lately with a lot of publicity that we'd rather not have. So if we get a refreshing story, a feel-good story, let's take it and run with it.
I couldn't agree with you more, having an icon like yourself with the Kentucky Oaks fixtures lining up against the boys here in the Preakness. To me, it's the story of stories. Good luck. Glad to have you with us, and we'll see you throughout the week.
Good. I hope we can all talk at 6:30 on Saturday. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mr. Lukas. That was wonderful. Yeah, good to hear your thoughts